So our next speaker was appointed president of the U of O on July 1st, 1994. He formerly served as the dean of the U of O School of Law, as Oregon's Attorney General, as a member of the Oregon House of Representatives, and as a law professor and legal counsel to the president of the University of Oregon. Everybody, please give a big welcome to President Frohnmeyer.
Thank you all very much for the kind introduction. Thank you to all of the organizers for putting together really a very special evening, and one that I always look forward to being a part of. So thank you for inviting me. I want to begin actually by introducing the members of my executive staff, the university's administration, who are here tonight, and that will be brief, but I think you need to know that we care deeply about events such as this, and we wanted to demonstrate that by our presence here. Please join me in greeting the newest comer to our campus, but a person who's already made her mark, who cares deeply about issues of diversity and has the resume and the action to prove it, our Senior Vice President and Provost, Linda Brady. Linda, thank you. Charles Martinez, Vice Provost for Diversity and Equity. Charles, thank you for coming tonight. Mike Eister, Acting Dean of Students and Director of Housing. And I did see Dave Hubin, Executive Assistant President, here. Thanks, Dave. Thank you for coming. That's more than a quorum of what we work with, and if I omitted any member of the university's executive staff, please forgive me, but we do care deeply about what happens here. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity on a couple of occasions to talk to civic groups, one of them quite large, more than 1,000 community leaders of Oregon, both locally in the Portland area, talking to them about what I called the Oregon Blueprint. Now, that may sound even pretentious, but we all try to figure out as best we can what the future holds for us and how we can best build to make that future a positive thing. And so what I intended those remarks then to be, and what I repeat ever so briefly tonight, is to both sound an alarm and express a hope. At the heart of my message was a warning that, and I now quote those remarks, that a disease, a strangling, circulation-stopping, muscle-binding, and breathtaking disease is killing this state. That disease has several names. Call it partisanship, call it tribalism, call it, as one of my friends has, the anger and selfishness that drives much of the 21st century American sentiment. A recent Oregonian poll says that we all feel it. More than 50% of Oregonians believed that this state was going in the wrong direction. So if I leave you with only one memory this evening, it is this: that kind of bitter divisiveness, deliberately contrived in many cases, is the political equivalent of road rage, and it threatens to leave us and a people as a tangled wreck on the side of Oregon's road toward progress. So let's see now, in about the last 90 seconds, you've heard me say disease, wreck. Is there another metaphor? Well, several seem apt, although the word insanity comes to mind. Its classic definition, of course, is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. But whatever metaphor touches you, or even if those ones don't, the fact remains that with every attack, with every ratings-driven, no-holds-barred, incendiary talk show program, with every ballot measure that tries to divide us, we grow sicker, more wrecked, more insane. So that's what I said in part to my fellow citizens, our fellow citizens. And why do I mention those remarks to you earlier today? Because it has to do with two phenomena which are quite evident already. The first of them, and I don't say that demographics is destiny, but it certainly points us to where we are going, is the discovery, and I think we knew it if we looked around, that Oregon is growing, that our school-age population is growing, and that unlike many states of the Union, our workforce is growing, promising something of a wholesome economy for the future. But if you look more closely at those numbers, the reason, and the only reason, that Oregon has grown is because of the growth of its non-white population, which are younger, hungrier, more desperate for education, more in need of services that were provided to us in my generation. And a second demographic is the aging of another population, but it is a population that has a very important characteristic. That population votes. Do you know what the average age is of our Oregon electorate in a low turnout, non-presidential year election? The average age is 60. In a high turnout year, the average age is 50. So can you conceive of the challenge that we face, which is to explain to each of these segments of our population how they depend actually on each other. How much those who are aging will depend upon a healthy, robust workforce in order to provide the economic sustenance for them, their pensions, their health benefits, and their care. And how much the younger generation will depend upon those older, wealthier persons for the cost of their education that will allow them, in turn, to have a place in the sun. That's just a challenge, a microcosm, my friends, for one small state. But as a university that's sort of the fulcrum of all of these issues, it is a big challenge for us to make all of these parts come together. To do what your theme this evening says, which is build community. Building community through grassroots activism. Building it through every possible mechanism at your disposal. The very idea of building community is a rejection of the divisiveness that I believe is at heart responsible for so much of the division that I described to you earlier. And you and we have a chance to change that history. The very empowerment through grassroots activism that you seek here today lies at the heart of the solution. There are years that ask questions and years that answer. Those are the words of the African-American writer Zora Neale Hurston. I believe that for some time we have been in the midst of the years that ask questions, and perhaps that hasn't concluded itself. Maybe we never leave that period behind. But I also believe, and I hope that you believe, that the years of answer lie ahead of us, and that you and we are part of that answer. Right now here, in the very heart of the University of Oregon, you and we have a chance to learn, to ask those tough questions, to push ourselves beyond the intellectual limits that we thought that we had. And by engaging in other activities of the campus and rubbing shoulders and rubbing minds with people whom we never thought we would meet before and with whom we didn't think necessarily we'd have much in common, that we can find and build those bridges that create the community that is at the heart of what we celebrate tonight in the very title of our efforts. So, in order to make a difference for the good, it must be sought for the good, not simply for the means of empowerment. In order to make a difference that lasts, it has to be wielded with thoughtfulness and energy. In order to be something that deals with hard questions, it must be willing to deal with the hard questions right now. On this campus, we've made a commitment to develop a diversity plan. And on this campus last year, and in fact even the year before, after more contentiousness than I would have feared, we nonetheless came together and overwhelmingly adopted that outline. But right now, this year, comes the hard effort of the local grassroots effort that you celebrate as part of the title this evening, of making that reality come into play. And I will say one other thing, and you'll understand that I'm trying to do this both on my time on and my time off. I want to remind you that Oregonians are going to the polls right now. You are Oregonians. You need to vote. You need to cast your franchise. That's the single immediate piece of grassroots activism in which you can engage. And I want you all tonight, those of you who are registered, to promise to me and to each other that you will vote. And I want to tell you why, and this is now a personal statement, and this is something, therefore, you can investigate. But as I vote on the ballot measures, I find two of them that I would find enormously destructive of the University of Oregon, of higher education expectations, and of student futures. Two of them. I find one of them that's a direct attack on the appellate judiciary of the state of Oregon and its independence in making rulings on your rights. And I find another one of them that would make the legislature powerless in the face of the executive branch and the lobby, because it would limit terms of those and therefore their seniority and their experience. Those are personal views. You don't have to accept them, but I hope you understand the passion with which I feel and am concerned about these issues, and why the exercise of your franchise is the single most important grassroots thing that you can do. So please do that. Many years ago, Cesar Chavez said, in the midst of a struggle that continues to this day, and I quote him, "When we are really honest with ourselves, we must admit that our lives are really all that belong to us. It is my deepest belief that only by giving our lives do we find life. There's no better time than now, grassroots right here, to begin finding that life, finding it together, finding it in the community that you have vowed tonight to build." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to see you. Good luck.